comes to a P. Diddy party, this is what happens to the white man. When they come to one of my parties, this is what happens to them.
One of entertainment's biggest powerhouses comes crashing down.
I was up, but I made no excuses. I'm disgusted. I'm so sorry.
A year ago, Sean Combs stood in Times Square and was handed a key to New York City.
Diddy broke down crying in court. Not a single dry eye in the back of the room, but not because they were mourning for him. No, those tears he shed weren't for anyone but himself. Because for the first time in his life, the fantasy was over.
The monumental verdict in the Sean Diddy Combs criminal trial. The question now is, what is next for him, right? You got sentencing, civil suits, a lot to get into. So while Combs was acquitted of racketeering conspiracy and the sex trafficking charges that he was facing, he was convicted of transportation to engage in prostitution. Currently, sentencing is set for October 3rd. However, there is a hearing set for July 8th where the defense will be arguing for the sentencing date to be expedited, to happen sooner. Obviously, they want that, considering Combs was also denied bail yet again, despite arguments from his legal counsel after the verdict that he should be released on bond. It didn't happen. They want to make sure this happens as quickly as possible. But what will he be sentenced to, really? That's the question. And also, will the government seize his assets? What about all of those civil lawsuits that he faces? Again, a lot of questions, a lot to get into. So for all of this, let me bring on former sex crimes prosecutor and criminal defense attorney, the great Matt Murphy is with us. Matt, good to see you.
Happy to be here, as always.
Got to ask you your reaction to the verdict. Is it what you expected?
Well, hearkening back to, I don't know, we were talking about this, you and I, a couple of months ago, and I got to say, whether it's fun to be right or not in a case like this, we were both right. This was never a good fit for RICO for a lot of different reasons. And the consent element regarding the sex trafficking was always problematic. And I thought the prosecution here did a good job presenting their case. They did a good job presenting their theory. But when you match in a trial context, when you match like professorial and kind of plotting, which is the way a lot of government lawyers are, versus dynamic and engaging and that personality of the defense, it's always a mismatch. You're always up against it. And the Mann Act, like we talked about, I thought he was going down on that after like the second day of testimony. The problem is for the prosecution, the Mann Act is a very old law, and it was essentially legislative morality from about 100 years ago, where it was transporting prostitutes across state lines. The intent may have been good. It was essentially a very early version of sex trafficking, but it was really more an attempt to stop prostitution, which is, as we know, never going to happen. So almost every lonely guy in New York City who's going through a divorce, who is having a problem in a dating pool, who has some sex worker drive over from New Jersey, if he buys her Uber or his Uber, theoretically, that's a violation of the Mann Act. So that is it's not the same type of crime. There's no mandatory minimum under federal law. The judge does not have to. That. Right. They don't have to. Now, it carries up to 10 years per event. So he faces up to 20 years. The prosecution, I think, is asking for 46 months or something like that. They're asking for far less than that.
If they had called, let's say, Christina Courtroom, okay, this chief of staff who had been mentioned, I think, by almost every witness, and she said, hey, listen, there was a criminal enterprise, okay?
The judge didn't blink. The gavel didn't hesitate. And the sentence? It came crashing down like Judgment Day. Years, multiple, not months, not probation, not fines. Years behind bars, hard time, real prison. And in that instant, everything Diddy built, every record, every brand, every red carpet appearance, every diamond chain, all of it turned to dust. Let's not get it twisted. This was no surprise to the courtroom. The walls in that place were soaked with anticipation. The reporters knew. The bailiffs knew. Even his own lawyers looked like they were just waiting for the blow. But Diddy still believed the myth. He still thought the charm would work, that the power would protect him. that the legend of Sean Diddy Combs was enough to bend justice. But justice doesn't dance to a platinum hit. And when the judge opened that folder, the illusion shattered. This case wasn't just about one party. This wasn't about one night. This was decades of secrets finally dragged into the light. The so-called freak-off parties? They were just the surface. What lay beneath...
It was because drug, sex addiction, and things like that I'm now addressing.
Well, you actually kind of sound like Diddy's defense attorney, Mark Agnifilo, because he literally made essentially the exact same argument, especially during the bond hearing. But I'm curious to know, obviously there are skeptics of this where they think it's strictly just to look good, it's just for good press, all of that stuff. Yeah. But in your opinion, do you think that these courses are just too little too late? I mean, the defense was saying that he was trying to get help before, he was trying to get help to address his drug use previously, that Jane was helping him get into a batterers program. But do you think it's too little too late?
Well, it's too little too late for his victims, okay? But it's not too little too late for the rest of the people he's gonna encounter while he continues to live out the rest of his life. And so you can't slam the door on redemption. You can't slam the door on someone trying to address destructive behavior. So I think, he does get some kudos for enrolling in the program and for the efforts he made prior to finding himself in federal court facing all of those charges. So I think it does go to his credit, but you're right. Critics and skeptics, sometimes they'll just never be satisfied. And for, well-founded reasons. When you have someone who has a documented history, such as him, and you see the videos and you hear the testimony, his problem goes deeper than a 30-day, program. Not that these programs are 30 days, but just to say it's going to take long-term and commitment to the long-term results in order for us to really have confidence that he's not going to engage in such disturbing behavior.
And it's interesting too, because I think the public reaction to this verdict was really kind of split down the middle. I was really thinking it was going to be one way. I was at the courthouse. It was a completely different kind of beast and animal that was going on after the verdict happened. There were people with the baby oil. It was a crazy day after the verdict happened. But I know some analysts were kind of comparing it to the O.J. Simpson verdict, but it seemed like the reaction was really kind of split down the middle. A lot of people upset with the jury's decision, but then there were a lot surprisingly celebrating the verdict. What are your thoughts?
Well, my entire time looking at the case, the charges, and listening, to the evidence as it came in during trial, I thought that depending upon how a person, be it a juror, be it the public, comes into the trial believing how someone who's a victim should act and how they believe relationships can evolve or devolve and fall apart is the lens that they would then make their verdict. Why I say that is because if you think a person who's battered, someone who's been a victim, someone who's been assaulted in the ways that were described, most people have an idea as to how they will respond and act towards that, or their expectation if it happened to their loved one, how they'd expect their loved one to act. And in those situations, you don't expect someone to be tweeting, you don't expect somebody to be sending texts telling their abuser that they love them or that they want more of what took place. However, there are other people who see it from maybe more so the lens of a victim or someone who's been abused, who would say, you know what? That's not so.
Beneath was darker than anyone wanted to admit. People weren't just manipulated, they were broken. Careers shattered, voices silenced, contracts ripped apart behind closed doors. And every thread, every whisper, every accusation led back to him. The prosecution came armed with receipts, not rumors, evidence, digital trails, hidden footage. Testimonies that made the courtroom go dead silent. They played audio. They showed clips. They read statements so raw and gut-wrenching, even the stenographer had to pause. It was undeniable. It was damning. And when the judge turned to Diddy and said, "You used your power to abuse, to intimidate, to silence, and now you will be silenced by the law," he broke. Not dramatically, not performatively. He broke like a man who just realized the money couldn't save him. That no lawyer, no PR team, no
AKA Diddy, the musician, producer, and business mogul who rose to fame as one of hip-hop's biggest personalities.
New York, we did it! Harlem, we did it, Mount Vernon, we did it! The Bronx, we did it! Let's go! The key to the city! Yeah, yeah, yeah!
But now, Combs is charged in a federal indictment, accused of sex trafficking and racketeering. How did we get here exactly? To answer that, we have to venture back to Combs' rise among the Hollywood ranks.
Diddy was born in Harlem. After his father was murdered, he went to an all-boys Catholic school and then went off to Howard University. And that's when he started throwing these parties. And Diddy was always the life of the party.
What's up, y'all? Coming to y'all live from London. Extremely humble, grateful, and blessed. Just got nominated for a Grammy.
Eventually, he obtained an internship at Uptown Records, and that is where his career in music begun.
Today's honoree is the first male rapper to be honored on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, honoring Sean Diddy Combs.
Not only is he a rapper, not only is he a music mogul, this individual is a legend. Who knew that this bad boy was going to turn into a great man?
By 1990, he's working as a talent director for Uptown, but he hits it big 3 years later when he starts Bad Boy Entertainment. From there, it just explodes. He's signing people as a producer, big names like Notorious B.I.G., Usher, Mary J. Blige. It's music, it's fashion with Sean John, where he's a founder. He was literally the top of the world when it came to music, entertainment, alcohol, anything that he touched. He had the Midas touch.
Congratulations. Get that chair shot one more time to make sure y'all got it. And over here with the cheers.
His empire extended well past his kind of rapping career. That's where he was making more of his money, actually, was off of his, I guess, material empire.
He seemed to be really dedicated to being successful in the industry. And he decided that instead of following someone around, he would make his own way. And he did that. He also is presumably a family man. He has been in some very public relationships. There's Kim Porter. I think we all remember his relationship with Jennifer Lopez. He has 7 children, and he really takes pride, at least publicly, in being involved as a father.
It's no secret how prominent Combs has been in the music and entertainment industries, and not just for his own work.
He just knew how to spot talent. At one point, Diddy had his hands on everyone's career. It seemed like every artist that was on the chart at one point was Bad Boy.
He makes himself out to be someone that people think they want to be. He lives the life that people think they want to live, where it's glamorous, you're flying around, you're on yachts, you dress nice. He was known for throwing parties. The problem is when you have that culture and you don't have people telling you no, you don't have parameters and guidance. And it just seems to get more and more extreme.
Everybody know ain't no party like a Diddy party, so. Yeah, that's what's up.
As Combs' fame and fortune grew, so did his circle of friends, and word of his notorious parties quickly spread.
I've got a lot I can't tell. So,
No influencer campaign could clean this one up. His face dropped. His body slumped. He sobbed. A full, uncontrollable collapse of ego and fear. The mighty had fallen. This is the man who once threw the wildest parties in Hollywood, who strutted through courtrooms with shades on like it was a runway, who built a billion-dollar brand on confidence, on control, on cool. But in that moment, there was no cool. There was just panic. And outside the courtroom, explosions. The news hit like lightning. Phones lit up. Timelines crashed. The entertainment world froze. Labels called emergency meetings. Executives deleted tweets. Influencers scrubbed their pages. Nobody wanted to be next to the blast radius of what just happened. And 50 Cent? He didn't miss. His post went viral in seconds. Didn't I tell y'all this day was coming? Didn't I say them skeletons were crawling to the surface? He wasn't gloating. He was right. Every time he warned the public, every time he hinted at the tapes, every time he called out the silence of the industry, he was telling the truth. And now the court confirmed it. You see, this wasn't a sentence. This was a signal. A signal that the game has changed, that no...
Can't tell that one either.
Everyone knew about the infamous Diddy parties. And at one point, everyone wanted to go to the parties because the who's who, the A-list would go to the parties. You can go down the list of celebrities who would go.
However, rumors were swirling that these parties, attended by some of entertainment's biggest names, weren't your typical soiree. They allegedly had a dark side.
I've had to turn down $50 million 4 times. 4 times. Just to protect my integrity and that I was telling you about. Right. Because P. Diddy be wanting to party. And you gotta tell him no. You got to tell him no. I did. I did.
As these parties went on, people started noticing some allegedly illegal conduct or nefarious conduct that was happening.
Hey, it was curious. I got a chance to see some things.
Yeah, but you were 13. What were you seeing?
I went there to see the lifestyle.
Right.
And I saw it. And it was, but I don't know if I could indulge and understand what I was even looking at.
There have always been whispers and rumors about what happens at Diddy's parties after midnight and how things can get really crazy, and also allegations of sexual assault and abuse.
We just got back to headquarters. Everybody take a shot. Sandy, was it DeLeon tequila?
These rumors and these stories would come up, but just as almost quickly as they'd come up, they'd often fall by the wayside. I think a lot of people looked the other way or just thought these stories were way too crazy to be true.
It was also his mentorships and interactions with up-and-coming stars that drew attention too.
Justin, you ever seen the movie 48 Hours? Right now, he's having 48 hours with Diddy. You know, where we hanging out and what we doing, we can't really disclose, but it's definitely a 15-year-old's dream. I don't have legal guardianship of him, but for the next 48 hours, he's with me, and we're gonna go full crazy.
Whether it be for hip hop, music, African American or black culture, Sean Combs has always been seen as a pillar of bringing it to the mainstream. You see individuals like Usher and even Justin Bieber, who followed thereafter, kind of coming through the roots of Sean Combs, through his tutelage, through his experience and through his connections.
People would bring their artists to Diddy, and we're starting to see videos of that.
Yet it wasn't all highs for the superstar. Over the years, Diddy's fame came with several run-ins with the law, one of the most infamous being Combs' arrest in 1999.
December of 1999, Sean Combs, his then girlfriend Jennifer Lopez, their bodyguard, and a young and up-and-coming rapper by the name of Shine all go to a nightclub. There was a dispute, and according to at least one of the 3 victims that were shot, Sean Combs is the one that shot that person.
I came here today just to tell the truth, so hopefully we can get down to the bottom of this. I'm 100%, the charges against me are 100% false, and hopefully due to time, we'll start to see that.
J-Lo was quickly not prosecuted. DP declined to prosecute, so she's out of it. Sean Combs, the bodyguard, and Shine all go to trial.
How y'all doing this morning? Excuse me.
We're going to win this trial. The facts are going to set Mr. Combs free because he's not guilty here, and that's all that matters is the facts.
The bodyguard and Sean Combs acquitted. Shine convicted of reckless endangerment, assault in the first degree, possession of a weapon, but acquitted of an attempted murder. Shine ends up doing just shy of a decade.
There were allegations that he had bribed one of the drivers to...
No amount of celebrity, money, or influence can shield you from what you've done. That the stories whispered behind closed doors for decades are no longer whispers. They're headlines. They read out the list of testimonies, person after person, name after name, assistants, artists, executives, even security guards, all telling the same story. The rooms, the cameras, the silence, the threats, and the tears. Some of them hadn't spoken in decades. Some thought they'd take the truth to their graves. But now they had a platform. They had a courtroom that listened. And Diddy? He couldn't escape it. His legal team tried everything. Character witnesses, medical excuses, reputation statements. But none of it mattered. Not when you're standing on a mountain of secrets and the mountain starts to collapse. The prosecution had tapes, documents, screenshots, agreements signed under duress, patterns of manipulation so deep they made Harvey Weinstein look like an amateur. This wasn't just about parties. This was about power. Raw, unrelenting power used to dominate and destroy. Used to control artists, ruin careers, trap people in contracts, silence victims. And the court? They saw it all. The sentence was specific, calculated. The judge didn't want symbolic justice. They wanted real punishment. They wanted the world to see that accountability wasn't just a buzzword, that even a music mogul can be held to the same standard as any other criminal. Diddy is headed to a federal facility. No luxury, no preferential treatment, no private suite, just a cell, a schedule, and time. Lots of time. And now, the cleanup begins. Bad Boy Records, under review. His business partnerships, terminated. His assets, being frozen. Sponsors, gone. Friends, silent. The empire is crumbling, one stone at a time. And in the ashes, the world is asking the same question. Who else knew? Because let's be honest, Diddy didn't operate in a vacuum. There were enablers, cowards, people who turned a blind eye to keep the money flowing. And now that the walls have come down, those people are next. Already names are being whispered. Other artists, executives, celebrities, people who attended the parties, people who helped cover it up, people who signed the NDAs and cashed the checks. The machine is falling apart. The facade is gone, and the industry is running scared. And as for Diddy, his fall is biblical. From red carpets to prison blues. From Forbes lists to court transcripts. From mogul to convict. He thought he could beat the system. He thought he could intimidate his way out. He thought legacy meant immunity. But the truth doesn't care about your net worth. It doesn't care about your streaming numbers. It doesn't care about your followers. It only cares about the facts. And now that the facts are public, the legend of Diddy is over. No redemption arc, no comeback tour, no studio album that can spin this. This isn't a scandal. It's a conviction. He's not a victim. He's not misunderstood. He's guilty. And while he sits behind bars, the world moves on. Victims begin to heal. Stories begin to surface. The silence that protected him for so long has been shattered. And in its place, a chorus of truth. The court didn't just sentence a man. It sent a message, loud and clear. This is what justice looks like. And Diddy? He'll have plenty of time to think about that. Every single day. Behind those bars, game over.